Okay, so we're going to start week 2 of the isolation of copper from copper ore. Now you'll see your copper sulfate solution should now have crystals. You can see I have some large ones, some small ones, and then still some copper sulfate in solution. So what we're going to do now is do a vacuum filtration of this, like so. Make sure you have a clean funnel top. A lot of people I saw when they were setting these up last time, they weren't having their sidearm flask secure to the bench. So make sure that when you do the arm clamp here, that the flask is secure. Okay. Get this guy in here. And filter paper on top. Slide this over so we can see what our crystals will look like. So I'm going to wash copper sulfate with about 10 mils of acetone. This will help remove any remaining copper sulfate from the flask. So here we go. Awesome. Use another 10 mils to rinse the rest of my copper sulfate onto my solution. So I'm going to let this sit on here until dry, and then I'll be transferring it into a pre-weighed 150 milliliter beaker. Okay, so my copper sulfate is now dry. Make sure to vent before turning off the aspirator. Great. For this step, I'm now going to transfer my copper sulfate, the dried copper sulfate crystals, into my pre-masked 150 milliliter beaker. So what I'm going to do here is actually scrape lightly and take the rest in there, like so. Be careful that the filter paper doesn't plop down, spilling all your sample. It's a little residual, not so bad. So it's a pretty good transfer. You might have some residual on your rubber policeman. Alrighty, I'm gonna move this here, because now we're gonna get to the fun part, where we're gonna dissolve our copper sulfate in about 50 mils of water. So now I'm redissolving my copper sulfate. We're getting this into solution. To help drive that a little bit, we're going to add 6 to 8 mils of 3 molar sulfuric. That'll help with the dissolution. And we'll add a little heat. So while that happens, I'm going to calculate my mass based on the pre-weighed beaker and the mass total that I found here. All right, so my copper is now fully dissolved and in solution. So from the mass of the copper that you recovered, you're going to calculate moles. Now, when you're adding the zinc for the last step, which is the replacement, where we're going to have zinc replacing copper and coming out of solution, you're going to add twice the amount of moles of zinc to the solution. So upon addition, you'll notice that the zinc immediately begins to dissolve and react with the copper sulfate. So as this reaction progresses, we will see the red copper fall out. Zinc will bind to sulfate, giving us a solution of zinc sulfate, which is clear and colorless. So the 2+ ion of copper, which is blue, is going to the metallic state of 0, and that's where we see that blue slowly start to dissipate. Now, it's very important while you're doing this is that you kind of mash up the copper as it's forming. This helps so we don't have a zinc core with a bunch of copper formed around it. And as you can see, the solution is losing that blue color. And we will get our copper. So yep, once the bubbles subside, that means the zinc has stopped reacting, dissolving. And we'll have a full transformation. Once this is done, we'll filter and go on to the next step. As you can see, the effervescing has subsided. There's just a bit more. Again, this is probably some of those zinc cores that we got. Mixed in with the copper. So I'm just going to mash it up a little bit more. And then we can go to the Buchner funnel where we can collect, rinse, dry, and get our final mass of copper. Beautiful. All right, we're going to now do the suction filtration of our recovered copper. Excellent. All right, so I'm just going to wet my filter paper down. Turn this on. And let's cover our copper. You might have to slurry it up so that you can pour it all out inside. I'm going to use about 25 milliliters of water. got that. It's rinsed. And now we're going to add several little portions of acetone, which will pull off any remaining water. Making our copper dry. I'm going to let this run for a little bit until my copper is dry. Then I'm going to transfer to a pre-weighed weighing boat to get a final mass. All right, my copper is dry. We're going to vent. Turn off the aspirator. Remove your suction flask. You can see we have that nice, dry copper powder. And for this, flop that right over. Get any other residual copper there. Nice and clean. The weighing tape. Weighing this will give you your final mass of copper. Zoom in there. And there you have it. Thanks, guys.